Action Monday edition of the program. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. How you doing, pal?
I'm tired. I
bet you are.
It was an exhausting game. It was an exhausting day. And then obviously the flight home afterwards, which they feel a little bit different when you come up on the short end of the stick there for the Browns. But, I mean, just when you think about what we witnessed, a remarkable game, 47-42. 41 points scored in the fourth quarter, 41 points, over 1,000 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
The Browns did a lot of what they needed to do to win. You had a clean sheet on offense. You put up 42 points, over 500 yards to lose under those circumstances. You are correct about that. And it just was one of those games. Look, there were multiple things that played into it. We'll go through all of them. But there are headlines. Headlines 1, we are decimated right now by injuries. We played an elite team at their place with an elite quarterback. And when I say elite, I mean elite. And I got the sense from being there that if the Chiefs called up and said, we'll give you Mahomes right now for Justin Herbert, they'd say thanks, but no thanks. Like, that's how much they
love
like
him. They
there.
should. I think the same would be true in Buffalo with Josh Allen, the way that he played last night.
Those three are
how they feel about him.
Yeah, those three guys are.
By the way, we like to be chesty and spike footballs. I didn't like either one of those guys in the draft. Either one of them. I didn't think Allen would be accurate.
I knew nothing about Herbert.
I didn't think there was any way that he would be accurate long term. I just thought, there's no precedent for teaching accuracy. Like, either you're accurate or you're not. Arm strength was there, athleticism obviously, but he was wildly inaccurate. And even early on in his career in Buffalo was wildly inaccurate. But he's not anymore. He's Superman, and he throws BBs. You and I were texting. You were on the plane. I said, wait till you see this throw he makes on the second touchdown to Sanders. It's crazy. And then Herbert was a case where he seemed at Oregon to be just disinterested. And much of it now looking back, you wonder how much of it was a product of what they were doing offensively versus taking advantage of his skill set, because they did not accentuate all that he is, and he is a lot.
I watched, in preparation on the flight out, I watched some of the TV copies.
Yeah.
So you hear, and they had their last two games were not their last. Yeah, the Chiefs, not the Raiders, but the Chiefs game and the Cowboys game were both Jim and Tony Romo.
Yep.
And you got one of the things that they said was it came through basically is they felt like the coaches at Oregon had limited him and held him back, and so
that
now
would back
he is
up. Yeah.
flourishing here, and he was impressive. So number one, and nothing I'm saying is excuse, because you still could have won the game despite everything I'm going to list out. Number one, we're ravaged by injuries. We played this game without Jed Wills, about a half of it felt like without Jack Conklin, no Greg Newsome, no Denzel early.
He was gone early. Yep.
Early. No Denzel, no Jarvis, we know that. I mean, as the game went on, you lose MJ Stewart. I mean, we were down to 3 corners, period.
Yeah.
And at one point, we were down to 2 corners because Greedy ends up leaving the game at the end. Greedy played like a warrior. Malik McDowell was down 4 different times. No Jadeveon Clowney in this game, which was a surprise on game day.
And this is an epidemic around the league.
Yes.
Injuries. How can we – what is going on?
So I wonder, there's a part of me that wonders, is it because there is zero preparation for football that football is
in the preseason? Like there's
and
none.
Training
we
camp.
used to have, and we used to even have off season.
Yeah.
There used to be more mandatories, all that stuff. All of that's being skipped, and training camp is not for preparing for football.
You need to callous your body a little bit.
I think you might be right. It's an
I don't know, but
overwhelming.
it's stunning.
Peter King and Football Morning in America had a list of it was like an all injury team, and it was like, my God, it's an all pro team.
Yeah. So that was certainly, that was a part of it. The officiating was awful. The pass interference on 4. We've been victims, by the way.
3 times.
3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
The interference call on John Johnson, the interference call on Troy Hill, and then this one on 4th downs or 3rd and way longs that are just heaves. Like, you can't reward just a heave.
They have to do something about this right now, because what is happening in this league, and we've seen it, to your point, 3 consecutive times on big money downs in desperation moments. Justin Herbert is saying to himself, well, the worst thing that can happen here is I'm going to get a pass interference, and that's also the best. And that's what he got. He got a pass interference.
That was a horrible call.
It's one of the worst calls that I've seen. It absolutely cost us the game. Could we have won despite it?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Were
there things that we could have done, and we'll get through those as you go through your things. But it is such an egregious miss, and it is such an example, very plainly, it is such an example of you have got to put an eye in the sky to say, no, we got that wrong.
Yeah.
Put that flag away. You got that wrong. That was on their own. What was that, on their own 40?
Yes.
4th and 4 on their own 40?
Yes.
They're down 9 at that point?
Yes.
We would have had the ball at our 40, Nick Chubb averaging 8 yards a carry. It's over. Game's over. Instead, he's scrambling, prayer, offense. If anything, it's offensive. It's crazy.
He grabbed A.J.
Green and pulled him down.
Yes.
That is an eye in the sky. Nope, we got it wrong.
Easy, and that's fine.
That's it.
And, of course, humans make errors.
Humans make errors.
But, yes, you need that. The holding call on J.C. Treader where it was actually illegal hands to the face on the Chargers, just get it right.
And honestly, if you're going to call the one on A.J. Green, then you have to call it on the Hail Mary to Chief where he gets drugged down and tripped.
Or the out and up to Donovan Peoples-Jones. He got shoved out of bounds 9 yards down the field.
Right.
Shoved out of bounds because the guy bit on the out and up. That's an immediate illegal contact. Immediate. By the way, that's our drive with 3 minutes to go. That's a drive we needed.
Yep.
You call that penalty, that's an automatic first down. So now we're moving it again, and they've already used one timeout. So those things happened, and yet we should have won the game. And now you go back and you say, we had the ball with 3 minutes to go. We needed a first down. We could not get it. And on the flip side of that is when they had the ball late in the game, you knew they were going to run it 3 times. You knew they were going to run it 3 times. We had 3 timeouts, and yet they still got the first down.
They got it.
Now, the game should have been over right there. They should have kneeled and kicked what was an old extra point. They didn't. We got a chance to get back into it, but we have been in 4 games that I would call great, intense, legitimate games. Monday Night Football against the Ravens a year ago, which was considered the best game of the year last year.
Yep.
They convert on 4th down. Lamar Jackson. We lose. Playoff game. We have every opportunity against the Chiefs. We can't get that one possession. We can't get the yards we need.
Yeah, Chad Henne.
And then we can't stop Chad Henne. We lose. Week 1, Kansas City. We can't stop them. We get the ball back, chance to win. We don't execute. We lose. This game, same thing. When you have the ball up 1, they missed 2 extra points.
Yeah, it's all there for you.
It was right there, and all we needed to do was, as an offense that had not been able to be stopped, much like in Kansas City Week 1, we had not been able to be stopped at that point. We couldn't do it when we needed to. And so is it a winning performance on offense? You're damn right it was. And anybody who says any different, you're wrong. You put up 42, you're over 500 yards, 7, 8 yards of play. You're efficient, you clean sheet, all of it. You don't win. But we have yet to play 60 minutes of full-on complimentary football. Now, you could also get into the fact that Myles Garrett was held on the touchdown to Austin Eckler. He's held basically every time he rushed quarterback. But he doesn't, and I don't know how he does not get more calls than he does because some of them are so blatant and egregious. It's stunning. Oh, I'm sorry. We actually averaged, where is it here? 6.6 per rush, 9.1 per pass. 7.8 per play. I mean,
you can't do
better than that.
But
it comes down to when it matters.
It's the money down.
It's the money.
It's when it's time to go win it. And you bring up the 4 examples, and those things will dog this team until it does. Now that opportunity may come as soon as Sunday because you got a good team coming in here on Sunday in Arizona.
But we need to feel that.
But we have to feel that because otherwise doubt creeps in. Right? Doubt will creep in. This is human nature, right? Belief goes a long way. You need to see it. You need to see it, you need to act it out, and you need to execute it. And when you do, then you can build. Then you become 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And until we have one of those against one of these teams, you can't do it against Cincinnati.
We know we're going to do it. There's never a doubt.
Fine.
We're going to come through against anybody.
Right. Last year against
us.
Cincinnati, that's a
100%.
spectacular drive to go get a touchdown. Great.
Yep.
But against the cream of the crop, the big-time teams, when you have to execute in the fourth quarter in the last 5 minutes, unfortunately we haven't, and it will dog us until we do. It's really that simple.
We could easily be 5-0 and we would be the chestiest team in the. They would talk about us right now, the Bills, obviously. But we haven't, to your point, we haven't come through. Here's money. What did you say? Money downs.
Money downs.
We were 4 of 12 on third down, 1 of 3 on fourth down. So you would imagine those 3 fourth downs follow third down. So that puts us at 5 for 12 overall. Not bad.
Yeah.
They were 6 of 13 on third, 3 of 3 on fourth, which puts them at 9 of 13. Yeah. Elite.
That's it.
Red
That's
zone.
the game, yeah.
Red zone. We had 6 red zone trips. We scored 3 touchdowns. They had 4. They scored 4 touchdowns. So it was the kind of end of the first half. Some of the points that were just left on the board. The drop pass on fourth down.
Yes.
Those were points.
Yeah.
Points.
Yep. Well, and also we have one timeout right before half. We get it down with 31 seconds left. We don't get the snap off till 13. Now all of a sudden we have 9. We burnt 20 seconds, and we had a timeout in the bag.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to. So it's those moments.
It's just little things.
It's these little things. When you're – look, let's be very, very, very clear here. This is a really good football team. This is a football team that can win its division, that can make a long run in the postseason, that can represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. When healthy, and we're not right now, we have everything that is required and needed to go do that. And that's why we're grading him this hard. That's why. It's because we know what's capable. So when you talk about these little plays, this is the NFL, man. At the NFL at the highest level, it's 4 or 5 plays a game that are the difference maker. And right now we're not doing it.
No.
Not against the best teams.
And that's the hump. That's the hurdle for this team. We are a team of consequence. Everybody we play comes out of it with great respect for what we're capable of as a football team. The Chargers absolutely knew we could take it to them. And you can talk about the superlatives of Nick Chubb. You could talk about Kareem Hunt. You can talk about the Chief having a career day. Look, Baker was great in this game. He was great.
Sure was.
23 of 32, over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Played a great game. We can handle anybody. But the hump for us, and I reference those 4 games because those are the 4 games against real elite competition. We have got to come through in a close game against an elite team. And I think once we do that, then it could snowball. We know we're going to get it done. And our fans, that's the difference now. You expect it to get done. And we know if it's somebody not as good as us, we're going to get it done every time. We have not slipped on the banana peel when we're not supposed to. But what we need to do is come through in these situations against an elite team. I tip my cap to the guttiness of A.J. Green, to Malik McDowell, to all the people that have had to step up. By the way, Blake Hance didn't hear his name. Joey Bosa?
No.
What did Joey Bosa do in this game? Joey Bosa, and they started to move him over on – he was on Hance the majority of the game, then they moved over to Hudson when Hudson comes in. You didn't hear Joey Bosa's name.
No, He had one pull down of Kareem or –
yeah, but I'm talking about affecting the quarterback.
The quarterback, there was nothing.
Nothing.
No.
So we had guys who stepped up, stepped in. That speaks to the coaching. That speaks to the buy-in, the preparation, everybody wanting their moment and getting their moment. But we had, at the same time, 2 busts.
2 busts, man, in coverage.
Listen, I'll relate it to the guys who are out there. You're playing Madden, and you can lock a guy down, but then you just screw one thing up and he goes 70 yards, and you're like,
right.
We did that twice in an NFL game.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. You can't have those kind of busts. And now part of it was people who hadn't been used to playing together. Part of it was the quickness with which they would come to the line at times, and you couldn't get set, and we couldn't get the communication we needed to get things done. But we had 2 busts that gave them one-play touchdown drives. By the way, we had a 1-play touchdown drive in the game against the Chiefs. Now, they gave us one too, but Chief breaks a tackle, and then just a phenomenal athletic play, just races into the end zone. But I'm talking mental; those were mental mistakes that led to layup touchdowns for a guy who's not going to miss layup touchdowns.
No, and much like the Chiefs game where we had the turnovers, they didn't. We had the busts, they didn't. That's the margin, man.
Yeah, and in this one, we won this first time ever. Under Kevin Stefanski, that we have lost a game in which we had a clean sheet, we were 8-0, or in which we had won the turnover battle or neutral, we were 14-0.
Yeah.
So we did everything we needed to do. We got bad luck with injuries. We got horrific officiating. Horrific. That you've got to know the situation. Like in the NBA.
Yes, of course you got to know the situation.
At the end of a game, when they let them play a little physical because this is the situation. On a fourth down, by the way, he had the other fourth down where he rolled out, or maybe it was the third. The one to Keenan Allen was just an absolutely absurd ball on the sideline.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Similar type of a throw and play to the Mike Williams one, except he just put it literally into a window as big as a football right to Keenan Allen. We're right there. We have got to taste that coming through because I'll go back to like Tiger Woods. When Tiger Woods was at his peak, he would just always come through, and it became a psychological thing, not only for him, this is a singular sport, but it had an effect, I'll call, against his opponents, where they're like, it's Tiger. We're not going to get it done. And we need to get to the point where we have that belief we're going to get it. And I know 100% mediocre. We beat everybody that we're supposed to in these situations. Like I had zero doubts in Minnesota. None.
Right.
Regardless of the fact that we could have ended that game 4 different times. But in this one, it just was a couple of bad breaks, but then you still have it. Any NFL team, especially an offense that was as good as ours, when you've got the ball with 3 minutes left and all you've got to do is get a first down.
That's it.
2 first downs ends the game for sure, but 1 first down means that they get the ball back with very little time.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. No. The critical stops, the critical plays offensively, the critical special when you need to flip field in the punt game. We're not doing that right now. So the bus in coverage, when you play the best, and you mentioned that, I love the analogy with Tiger because that's true. It is the belief, right? And this Chargers team got some belief against Kansas City by beating Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
Now they walk in 10 feet tall and bulletproof. The stones on Brandon Staley to go for it whenever.
Hold on. We could have ended the game.
There's several chances where it's there to be ended. But they have belief, and that's how fragile this is, and that's the thin line between winning and losing, and that's a lot of what this Chargers team has right now, and a lot of that comes from the fact that they beat Kansas City. To your point,
in the third quarter, we take the lead 27-13. We do what a good team does. Remember, we had scored. We then get the field goal after the Eckler fumble. Greedy punches it out. Mm-hmm. Then we score. So we run 17 unanswered on him. It was 13-10. It's now 27-13. This is beginning of the third quarter.
Sure.
They go 4th and 2 on their own 24.
Yeah.
On their own 24.
On their own 24. Yep. No one does that.
You stop that play, it's at worst 30-13, and it's over. You can send them packing, and they got it on a run. Inside handoff, 9 yards, Austin Eckler. Same drive. 4th and 7 at the Browns 22. Conversion. 2 plays later, he runs it in. Touchdown. 27-21.
There's so
4th
many
and
chances.
2 on the 24.
That's unbelievable.
That is a death play. It's over.
It's over.
That's what somebody does in Madden who's like, all right, I'm going for this, and if I get it,
you're almost annoyed with them.
And if not,
like, really, you're going for it?
And if not, I'm quitting.
No one in real football would do that.
No, it's like, I'm going for this, and if I don't get it, I'm conceding.
Yeah,
but this is it.
Yeah.
On that fourth and 7. On 3rd and 3, it got a bad PI call on Ronnie, I thought, on that pass that tight end. But you had the chance at 4th and 2 on their own 24.
It's funny. There's so much that happened that I had forgotten about that play on 4th and 2 on their own 24 because there was so much that happened after it. You almost forget about that, but all that stuff is cumulative. Yeah, it's the belief. I mean, that's incredible. It's incredible the way that, and now they're going to be a team to be reckoned with, certainly, as if there were any doubts. We're going to get some updates on these injuries. Obviously, there are a lot of them. Coach is going to have his presser at around 2 o'clock. We will have that for you live. That's around 40 minutes from now. There were obviously a ton of injuries. We can't update you on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He was taken to the L.A. hospital yesterday's game after sustaining a throat contusion. I don't even know what that is. What in the heck is a throat contusion?
And you had 2 of them in 1 week with Joe Burrow and JOK.
Popped right hard in your throat, swells up. So you're basically bruising and swelling of your throat.
Okay.
Yep.
Crazy. So he was released from the hospital last night and cleared to travel to Cleveland this morning. So we do have that piece of information. Obviously, it was a MASH unit situation in the game yesterday, and keep your fingers crossed for 2 o'clock as we get some updates on that. Also worth noting, and certainly worth circling your calendars for, Joe Thomas Hour will happen right after that. So you'll have Coach at 2, then Joe Thomas Hour after that, as we'll get Joe's take on everything that happened. Important, of course, that I remind you that the Browns Bundle is back at participating Ohio Buffalo Wild Wings locations. With the purchase of a Browns Bundle, fans can get limited edition collectible Cleveland Browns glasses. The $14.99 Browns Bundle includes a 6-piece wing, fries, and a Browns glass. This season's collection honors the Browns' 75th anniversary with 3 unique designs: the 75th anniversary logo, the throwback brownie, and the 1946 patch logo. Choose yours today. Still so much more to get to on this one in what was a wild weekend of football. The college stuff was crazy. The NFL stuff was crazy. What else stood out to us in the loss to the Chargers? We get to all of that coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage, that local presence in the global footprint, trusted by some of those biggest brands in all of the world. This is a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Tom Darty. He's the Senior Vice President of Specialty Programs at the NIP Group. He said, quote, "I have a saying about working with EOX Vantage. If you dream it, they can build it. We generate lots of ideas for them to carry out. They've implemented everything we've come up with. We brainstorm ways to innovate and improve our company. We use EOX Vantage for their infrastructure, coding, and programming capabilities, technological expertise, and experience working with those global brands. We're absolutely thrilled with the partnership, and you can be too. You can learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616. Again, that's 216-298-1616. There was so much in this game that was lovely. So much that was lovely. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt affirming what we've all known about them. The way we stepped up, you brought up a great point in the first segment with Blake Hance and even Hudson. Like, they weren't exposed, and Hance was incredible. Like, I never thought of it that way. Like, and that's the way I guess you want to play left tackle is the idea that no one even notices that you're there, and that's what it was like. There was no noticing he was even there against Joey Bosa. So there's highlights to be made there. Defensively, honestly, you did pretty well until the fourth quarter, and then it was a waterfall at that point of points. But up until that point, you'd done a pretty good job. This one really came down to money downs, offensively and defensively. Yep. They made them, you didn't.
Money downs, money series.
Yeah.
And that's it. And yes, you did everything you needed to win. This is a great football team that the Browns have. It is well coached, and I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we should have done this or could have done that differently." A lot of these things and a lot of the reactions to things come from the outcome, right? There's an outcome bias to it.
Of course. Yeah.
And we don't know necessarily all the things that went into some of these play calls and whether or not some things were changed. We don't know exactly what went down on those final drives. What we do know is that this team had a great plan despite having backup tackles, third-string tackles. I mean, you had a third stringer at left tackle and right tackle, basically. And you played one of the great offensive performances. It just wasn't there at the very end. But all in all, you had to be thrilled with what you got out of a lot of this football team for the majority of this game. And as I said, we've proven it. There is no doubt the teams that everybody says are the elite teams in the NFL that we can play with. And now what we need to do is go and beat those teams. And when we do that, I think that the ball will absolutely get rolling and snowball. But this was a brilliant offensive performance. You have the most dominant. You're averaging over 100 yards more rushing per game than your opponents. Go ahead and let that sink in for a second. We have rushed for more than 150 yards 5 straight games to open the season. Why is that significant? Last year when we were the number 3 rushing offense, and we talked about how great we were running the football, we did that 6 times in the season.
Yeah.
We've done it 5 in 5 games. We are running at a level that is historic in the sense because we're doing it without a running quarterback. When the Ravens and the Niners teams, with Kaepernick, when you're setting those kind of rushing records, when you're getting 1,700 yards from your quarterback,
yep,
we're just handing the ball off and running.
That's right. It's crazy. I mean, they are who you think they are. That's the best running back combo in the history of the league, and you couple it with incredibly expertly coached offensive line play and talent, and you have this. You marry it with scheme, and you have what you have for us offensively, and it's something. And this is the beautiful thing, guys. It's early October. It's like 80 degrees out there right now. We're going to play games in January, and we're going to play games in December, and those two dudes and those guys up front, they're going to do just fine in those conditions.
Oh, yeah, that will translate very, very well that time of the year. But one cool story from the game, 4th down when we go for it and Kareem runs in for the touchdown.
Yeah.
So Stefanski, at that point, was kind of unsure. Do I take the field goal here? Do we take it and we tie the game? I think it was 13-10 at that point. And we had just had the 4th down with the drop. And he looks to Callahan because Callahan's very involved. And this is such a collaborative thing. What run play do you want? So they're talking, and then he looks at Kareem, and he goes, "Do you want to go for it?"
Yeah.
Answer is known, pre-question, obviously. Kareem said that he used something that he couldn't say in the radio interview I did with him post-game, but basically, absolutely.
Yep.
You're darn right I do. They go in, he runs it in for the touchdown. Then I'll go to the 2-point conversion play.
Boy, that was cool.
So we had shown that where we threw the kick out when, he fakes the jet one way, then he comes back and goes in motion. We've used that to throw the kick out to him. We've also used that to do an inside handoff. We have never used it where we moved it right and then threw an underhand pass tight end. Like that kind of setup of everything that's been on tape but that they have not seen before is awesome. And so we did so many good things, but at the same time, not enough. You can't have the 2 busts. Those are things. Physically, look, they're a good offense.
Well, it's
the Chargers.
It's worth remembering they're a great offense, and they're so explosive, and they make you defend the entire field always because of Herbert's arm strength, the talent they have at receiver and Eckler, because they have all of it. There's no place you can say, all right, we can kind of chill out here and we're okay. There's nothing because they make you defend the whole field. The other thing from that perspective, in terms of dealing with them and in terms of the margin, it's worth remembering 40 points, 500 yards, no touchdowns. It's never happened.
Ever.
It's never happened. In the history of this league, it's 142-1. When you have those things, we're the one loss. So you can't do a whole lot better than that. In fact, it's never been done. No one's ever done that and lost. And so you try to make sense of that and wrap your head around it. And you do it despite what you were saying about the 2 busts, despite the officiating mistakes that were made, and they clearly are mistakes, despite the mistakes, the self-inflicted wounds that we did offensively. You get the ball with a minute 30, you should have got a better shot than what we got. We basically got one throw into the end zone. We should have got several. Honestly, you should be able to get it. A minute 30 is an eternity in the National Football League. Yeah. That's a long time. That's probably practiced every day out there. Every day it's practiced, that drill. And we went check down, and all of a sudden now we got 30 seconds. We're 60-some yards from the end zone.
We went 75 yards in a minute and 20 with no timeouts against the Bengals.
Right. Like you got to go. You got to get the ball down the field. We didn't. So all of those things happened from a negative standpoint. You did all of that from a positive standpoint. And when you play a team like this, you're not going to win.
And I know a lot of people are killing our defense today.
They were ravaged, man.
Sure. But guess what? They're also really good. The 2 busts
No.
can't happen.
Ravaged by injury.
We were ravaged by injury, yes.
My God.
But
like
they're also really good.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very, very good. But who was playing corner in the last series?
A.J. Green.
For us.
A.J. Green and who's on the other side? Oh, Troy Hill.
Troy Hill and A.J. Green were the 2 receivers.
2 corners. Yeah, you couldn't even play nickel at the end.
No, they left. And then Clowney doesn't play, which was a late thing with him. That would have made a difference, right?
Definitely.
Of course.
Tack played well, filling in for him, 3 pressures.
But the idea is you have 3 of them.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Denzel hardly plays at all. He's gone really early from this one.
Denzel played
Greedy
9
played
snaps.
like a Greedy was warrior. That was
a
unbelievable.
stud.
What he played through and kept gutting it out and playing.
He was great. A.J. Green played great. I mean, they're just really good. But where I have the problems, the busts, those are mental errors. And you can't have those because those are 14 points. Can't have them. The other problem was when we needed a first down with 3 minutes to go, we couldn't get it. And then when they got the ball back, remember, we could have held them to a field goal. We had 3 timeouts, and they had the ball. At what? They had already gotten. They had the first play was the Jared Cook up the sideline, and then they get 3 runs. They're going to run it 3 times in a row.
Yep.
And we know they're going to run it. They know they're going to run it, and they picked up the first down on the last one on a toss. You stop them there, they kick a field goal. You have no timeouts. You have a minute 30, and you just need a field goal.
Right. Field goal.
You just have to get to the 40 for Chase McLaughlin.
That's the one when Eckler slides at the 2.
Yes.
Yeah, slid down at the 2.
But we had our chances despite everything that happened. I think that the Browns have, again, the officials, it was bad. And it impacted the game.
It's not just our game. I know you're doing our games, but when you watch the league, this happens consistently around the league. There's a wild inconsistency.
But that's why you just have the eye in the sky. It's so easy.
We had Pereira on here, 3 years ago?
At least.
And he said this. I want to say it was the first year I was on the show, 3 or 4 years ago. We had him on, and he said this is a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
Like, this should have been done. Right. Like, all that matters is getting it right. These are easy. This is a – nope, got it wrong. Pick it up. That's all it is.
Here's the problem. Pass interference is too big of a penalty, as we've talked about ad nauseum in this game, for it not to be reviewable. We should have at least, if you're not going to have the eye in the sky guy who says no, you've got to bring back our ability to say this was not pass interference, in fact.
Correct.
Because that changed the whole course of the game. Now, we could have stomped them on 4th and 2 on their own 24 in the third quarter. Game over. 4th and 7 later on that drive. 4th and 7, not 4th and 2, 4th and 7. Game over. Didn't. So we didn't come through when we needed to. But the officiating was horrific. We had guys step up who had not played. I mean, you talk about Greedy was Malik McDowell was on the ground and in the tent at least 4 times. I saw him after the game. He was in definite pain. He goes, that was a hard day for me. And yet he goes out there, he gets his first NFL sack. He was around the quarterback all game long. The Browns have it. We do have it. We have what it takes to go all the way. And now it's going to come down to those critical moments, those critical compete drills, because in the NFL, what's crazy is they'll be like, look, it doesn't come down to one player, this, that, but it does sometimes. And in this case, it wasn't one. You stop them 4th and 2, you stop them 4th and 7, you make them kick a field goal right there. You get first down. So it doesn't come down to one, but it comes down to a handful of critical situations. And unfortunately for us, and we could say, well, we hit the play to Chief, we did the 54-yard run, we did all kinds of great stuff, and we still lost.
It doesn't come down to one, but when good plays good, it comes down a handful of ones, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It's a handful of one plays, 4 or 5, that determine wins and losses when good plays good. You see it every single Sunday in the league. It's a couple of plays here and there when the good plays good. And guess what? You got a good one coming in here on Sunday in Arizona. This is a big game.
Yep.
This is a really big game. Use a golf analogy. Sometimes you just need to see a few putts drop. That's where we are. We need to be a good team.
That's where, yeah.
And that's where you're at. You need to see it. You need to see a putt drop. That's where you're at.
It's like sometimes when you were, when I was getting hot in Montana in the hoop game and the jumper was right there, it was a little off. I just needed to go the hole, get fouled, put a couple free throws
That's
in,
right.
and then
get it rolling.
Let's fire it up. Let's go.
Let's eat a little bit.
Yeah.
Browns High School Football Game of the Week is back. It's presented by Ohio Cat in association with MedLiminal. Fans can vote now to determine this week's game on clevelandbrowns.com and @Browns on Twitter. The polls close Thursday at noon. This week's candidates are Chardon and South, Riverside and Kenston, Hoover and Green, and Garfield and Brookfield. The winning team from the selected game of the week receives $2,500 for their high school football program. You can vote today on that. A wild Sunday in the National Football League. We'll get some perspective on that. And a reminder, we will have Coach Stefanski for you live at 2 o'clock in what should be a very interesting press conference. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it isn't an interesting press conference because there were a lot of walking wounded coming out of that. That will be followed by the Joe Thomas Hour here, right here on Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Blend.
Beau Bishop here for Raising Cane's. Stop by Raising Cane's this Halloween season and enjoy hand-battered cooked-to-order chicken fingers with the Peanuts Gang. Visit RaisingCanesGear.com to purchase a limited edition Peanuts shirt. Nets proceeds will be donated to Canine Companions and its mission to provide trained assistance dog to people with disabilities. Are you looking for a place to have fun while working hard? Raising Cane's is also hiring. Visit workatcanes.com or text RC Jobs to 97211. Raising Cane's, one love. It was an absolutely bonkers weekend of football. The college football stuff on Saturday was insane. The NFL backed it up. It absolutely backed it up. I don't know how you could be more gutted than by what's happened to Detroit this season. I mean, it's insane. Dan Campbell in tears at the podium.
Greg Joseph, little redemption, 54-yarder.
You lose by a 66-yarder and a 54-yarder? Come on the last play. They went for it on two to get the lead, to take the lead. He did the
gutsy
thing that takes stones to do.
Yeah.
And with 37 seconds, and you still lose on a 50-some-yard field goal. One thing that we said, though, going into the weekend, and the scores were not kind to me.
We're fine. We're middling.
Middling, very middling.
We're fine. A middling week is fine.
Yeah.
We just don't need
it's not to the standard.
not to our current standard, no.
No, there are standards, though, that are up to our standards.
Yes.
Near us. What I would say is
elite.
What I would say is this. We said you're going to figure out, you're going to get a look at the four best teams in the AFC. And you did. Now, you probably got home in time for the end of the Sunday Nighter with the lightning delay. Was it still on when you got home?
I got home at 3:30.
Okay, you barely missed it then.
So no.
Because it was going until what, 12:45?
It went till
I mean, it was going forever. Were you guys able to watch? Did you?
No, but we flew through whatever was happening over the middle of the country, and it was a terrifying 15
minutes. Ping pong
minutes.
balls inside a tube.
Oh wow! Okay,
we bounced.
I was asleep, which was I don't
lovely.
Often sleep on a plane, and I was woken in a panic.
That's not great.
No,
That's
it was
not
just
great.
like
Yeah. It's very possible though that Kansas City's just not good right now. They were dominated. They were physically dominated.
Have you seen all the clips of Honey Badger doing this?
Yeah, just like
on every huge play that Sorensen gives up.
Just going, what are we doing? What are we doing here, man? It's crazy.
By the way, this one did have some of those KC vibes from the playoff game where a horrific call, or in that case, non-call on the helmet-to-helmet on Hollywood Higgins, the fumble changes the course of that game, and yet we still had the chance, which is similar to this Chargers game. Horrific call. Still had the chance. Anyway.
Yeah, the Bills are absolutely smoking right now. They are absolutely smoking. Yeah, you did. You did a good job at it. It was.
I needed it because I
kept thinking
in the struggle city.
At some point, you kept thinking, "My goodness," but they don't have it. They don't have a gear right now. I think they may be fine. They're clearly still a playoff team. I'm not sure who the AFC 7 will be.
They didn't blitz him once.
They can't.
They just play shell. I'm saying they didn't blitz Mahomes.
Oh,
that's the new strategy.
Right,
is
just play
they're
shell.
not going to run it, and you're not afraid
You'll
of
look
them running
back
it.
on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick and go, because everybody thought that would be the one. Remember all the Brian Mitchell comparisons, like that was going to be the one. It was like Brian Westbrook was like, okay, what are we gonna do with this? Now they got this guy too.
Yep.
It just hasn't worked. He's a guy. He's nothing special.
He is not
at all, and so it hasn't worked for them, and they needed it to work.
I mean, if they had peak from Chiefs lore, you had Jamal Charles there, or they would be. Yeah. And they've tried bringing in all the old guys. They just haven't been able to make that right move to give them that completeness on offense.
No. The Cardinals did everything they could to give it up to the 49ers. Trey Lance is just
not ready.
Just wildly inaccurate, stunningly so. Now, he may end up being how Josh Allen was, where it all worked out and he can harness it and Kyle can teach it up. But right now, he's absolutely wildly inaccurate. Steelers held firm at home, got a win and got their second win. Anything else jump out to you on Sunday?
So it was cool. You got to watch a lot of stuff. I'll jumped at Cincinnati Bengals, feisty, and we're right there and had every chance.
This is why you don't take a left tackle when you can have a game-wrecking receiver, because nobody game plans for a left tackle.
Blake Hance allowed zero pressures.
Zero pressures, right?
Zero.
Jamar Chase is a game wrecker.
Yep.
The dude gets separation all the time. What did he end up, 6 for 156 and 2 scores?
Yeah. He's legit.
Yes.
Kadarius Toney.
Remember, I was telling you in the draft, like he
too.
was better than Jefferson at LSU. Like people couldn't wrap their heads around that because how good Justin Jefferson is. He's better. He's that explosive.
I think one of the other things that stood out to me was how New England got very lucky to win that game. It felt like they were getting it handed to them that whole game.
Though Davis Mills there was a point where he had missed on only 1 or 2 passes,
which is
crazy to come back.
Where'd that come from?
First time in Brady's career, he threw for 405 touchdowns. That had never happened until yesterday. In their
and by the way, I should have just stayed with my original theory, which was you just take the 3 biggest underdogs of the week, and there's no way all 3 are going to lose. Detroit covered, Miami didn't, but Houston covered.
Houston covered. Yep, absolutely so. Do the opposite of New Orleans, continues to pay dividends.
Great dividends.
Dallas is really good.
Legit.
As it turns out.
I
Saquon
feel like
Barkley, my God. I mean, it's done.
Too bad. Kadarius Toney's a stud, though.
Yeah.
Diggs is their corner. Javon Diggs he's got more interceptions than 27 teams.
He's got 6. 5 straight games with a pick.
Yeah. They're legit. By the way, if Jones, though, doesn't get hurt, and I feel like that game could have been competitive, but Dallas is the better team.
Yeah.
From our friend Luke Easterling, Jameis Winston, lower interception percentage than Patrick Mahomes this season.
Well,
wrap your head around that.
Last year through 5 games, they had 3 giveaways, the Chiefs. This year they have 11. You can't win that way.
Well, but I think that's because you don't have a defense, and so you have to score every single time in your press. You press it, and you got to throw because you can't run it.
And people are limiting.
Can you imagine if they had Kareem Hunt? I don't want to, but they'd
be unstoppable.
Especially because Edwards-Helaire is now out for a few weeks.
They'd be unstoppable.
He's got a knee injury, I believe.
I mean, yeah, that's the other thing is everybody wants to go to an 18th game. Are we sure we can get through a month with the injuries?
Sweet Miss K has a fantasy football team that is her entire team is hurt. Her quarterback was Russ. Her running backs, Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery was her number 2. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was her number 3. All gone. She had, who's her receiver that's hurt? She's had Logan Thomas out, tight end. She's got receivers that are hurt. I mean, her whole team. Oh, Calvin Ridley, who didn't make the trip to London. He's not hurt, though.
You called the Pits, by the way.
We've got a break, but literally you just refresh Twitter, and it's one injury after another. Laramie Tunsil, torn UCL in his thumb. He'll need surgery. They're hoping he can play through it.
We got to ask Joe about this.
MCL sprain.
Yeah, we got to ask Joe.
It is just
what's going on that it's this bad this early.
Yep.
And guys, we're at the 2nd week of October. By the way, I'd feel sorry for Miss K, but she has the eternal gift of living with you. Wow. So how sorry can I possibly feel?
I feel sorry for her.
Coach Stefanski up next. Cleveland Browns Daily 850 ESPN Cleveland. Joe Thomas will join the program here momentarily. We'll go to Coach Stefanski. His press conference here scheduled to start in a matter of seconds. There is a lot to get to in this presser, most especially the injury concerns, and there are many. We'll get an update on all of that. As Gibby pointed out, there are a ton of them going around the league today. Yeah,
it's been a brutal weekend in the league. I know the Steelers lost Juju Smith-Schuster for the season with that shoulder injury that he suffered. But I just want to say one thing. I feel like, again, the sky is not falling.
No.
Our 2 losses this season have come on the road against very good teams. So you could say the Chiefs have their flaws. The Chargers are an elite football team.
He's here.
And we had the chances to win. And now we're going to hear from the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski.
You guys are down.
Coach, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, got you, Rob.
Excellent. You're welcome to start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, on the injury front, we got in late, so we still have a bunch of MRIs pending, so I don't really have a ton of updates for you guys on the injury front. Obviously, very disappointed. You go on the road against a good team, you want to come away with victory, and we didn't. And I told the team there's 1,000 reasons why we didn't. We got to make sure we own them and get to the bottom of them, and because we have to be better. We'll be in similar games against similar opponents, and we got to come through. And I certainly have to do my part there as well. So disappointed, going to have to make some corrections, and then got an undefeated Arizona Cardinals team coming into our place this weekend. So we're going to have to, again, make corrections and then quickly move on.
Thanks, Coach. First question will be from Tom Withers.
Thanks, Rob. Hey, Kevin. In terms of Jeremiah, is he back home?
Not yet. He is. I think we'll land shortly, though.
Okay. And yesterday in the postgame, you talked about the penultimate drive where you decided to call the draw play on 3rd and 9. In hindsight, do you wish you had done anything different? And if you throw on 2nd and 9, why are you running on 3rd and 9?
Yeah, good question, Tom. Yes, in hindsight, I definitely wish I did something different. This is where I have to put our guys in position to succeed, and I didn't do that there, and I'm sick about it. Definitely got too wrapped up in the previous play call, with the clock stopping and with, how that unfolded. And I got to put our guys in position, and I can't do that to our team.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Tom. Next is Fred Greetham.
Hey, Coach, do you feel sometimes like you're spinning the plates? It seems like you get the offense going, then the defense is going, and you just really haven't been able to get the whole thing on the same page at the same time?
Yeah, I think, Fred, you have to find a way to win every Sunday or Thursday, whenever you're playing. You got to find a way, and sometimes the defense is going to carry us like they did the last couple of weeks, and then sometimes it's got to be the offense. And the offense and myself, we got to come through in those moments. But it's whatever the game calls for. Would we love for all 3 phases to be playing at their absolute potential? Yes, we would. And we're working real hard to make sure that happens.
Thank you, Fred. We'll go to Scott Petrick.
Hey, Kevin, get back to that draw play. You also called one I think it was on the first drive on the 3rd and long. Do you think that sends any message that there's a lack of trust in the pass game when you choose to run on 2 important plays?
Yeah, I don't think it sends that message, Scott. At least, I talked to the offense about those calls, and that first one trying to really help the field goal. Those 3rd and longer, when you get down in the red zone and you limit the amount of space you have, becomes difficult. We had a good run that really helped the field goal there. But I would just tell you, I have to do a better job, bottom line.
When you say you got caught up in the 2nd down before the final 3rd down draw, what do you mean by that? Like I know Baker thought there should have been a penalty. Is that what you mean?
I would just tell you, I'm never going to rely, and we as a team are not going to rely on the officials. And I need to, in the moment, whether something gets called or doesn't get called, I got to move on and make sure I give the guys a chance to succeed.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scott. We'll go to Matt Fontana.
Yeah, Kevin, actually speaking about the officials, there seemed to be a lot of calls, just that defensive pass interference. There's a picture of a guy getting into JC's throat. Do you feel like you need to say anything to the team coming out of a game where there might have been some questionable calls and non-calls?
Yeah, Matt, we talked about it. I'll obviously, like we do every week, have a discussion with the league on some of these plays. And listen, they're not going to get every play right, and I'm certainly not going to call every play right. And we're not going to execute every play right. It's going to be imperfect. But for our team, we are not going to leave it in the hands of the officials. We control a lot of that game, and we need to do better.
And Kevin, I think the stat was that you're the first team to score 40 or more points with no turnovers and not win the game in NFL history. Something to be said about going against another good team and being close and having a chance to win?
No.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Mary Kay Cabot, you're up.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, week by week, I hear you, taking a lot of responsibility for, you want to put the guys in a better position in certain things. And I know that, coaches like to do that, take a lot of that responsibility on themselves. But my question is, I've heard you say it enough now to wonder, even after a game like that, where you're sick about the, the 3rd and 9. I mean, do you ever think about, just letting Alex Van Pelt call the plays and you just kind of oversee the whole operation?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I think we have a really good collaboration on game day. It's a lot of us on there, but particularly AVP, Bill Callahan, do a great job in making sure that our operation is how we want it. Certainly, like you mentioned, there's going to be moments where I need to do better, but I'm getting a ton of help throughout the game.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Daryl Ryder has our next question.
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to ask you about the 2 blown coverages that led to a touchdown. Just when you went back and looked at it, I'm not asking you to call anyone out or assess any blame publicly, but just when you went back and look at that, and what did you see, and how do you prevent that from happening? Because obviously once in a game is too much, but to have it happen twice in the same game and it ended up costing you 14 points.
Yeah, Daryl, obviously when guys get that open, the answer is it's always a miscommunication. And that's what happened. We had poor communication out there a couple times. We got to get lined up, get the calls, and execute the defense. And unfortunately, just, you never know when it's going to hurt you. And it was unfortunate that we had some miscommunication back there, and we got to work real hard to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And I want to ask you about that last possession, the 90 seconds. You guys had one last crack at it early in the drive right out of the gate. I think it was a 6-yard pass, and then 2 really short passes, one from 3 or 2 yards or whatever. What did you see when you went back and watched that? Because I'm guessing you're not looking for 2 and 3 yards in that situation. You really need some chunk plays there.
Yeah, we had a 4 verticals called. That we checked it down to Kareem, and then it was a 3rd and 1 where we were aggressive to Kareem in the flat to try and get the first. So that's the truth of it. And the first goal of that drive was to make sure we're in location to throw a Hail Mary. Obviously, we'd love to get as close as possible to do that, but that's what happened there.
Thank you, Daryl. We'll go to PJ Ziegler.
Thanks, Rob. Kevin, what have you guys learned over the course of this year alone, just in closing out, quote unquote, elite quarterback?
Yeah, I think, PJ, you got to find a way to get a stop. We let him out of the pocket too many times. We got to do a better job and contain. And that's certainly going to be something for this week as well coming up, because it's hard to cover, for that long when you let the quarterback out of the pocket. And then they made a few plays. We made a few of them too, but we got to find a way on 4th down in particular to get off the field.
Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. Marla Reidner, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, yesterday you made a couple references to the protection issues affecting the play calls. I mean, last year you had a lot of linemen out with COVID and stuff, and it didn't seem to be as big a factor. Was Baker's shoulder playing any part in this yesterday?
No, it wasn't, Marla. I would tell you, again, you got to call the game that is called for. Certainly understand that had some guys playing in positions where I need to make sure I call the game in a appropriate fashion, but that doesn't excuse not being aggressive when it's called for.
And do you know anything about Jarvis, whether he'll be able to be activated?
I don't know yet. He's running today, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Marla. We'll go to Tony Grossi.
Hey, Kevin, I just wanted to ask about Odell. You know, you've said, everyone says you think of players, not plays in the clutch. He didn't even get a look on that last drive. What was going on there?
Yeah, there was a couple opportunities, Tony, but the coverage took the quarterback elsewhere. That's really the simple answer to it. We got to just make sure we find ways to get him the ball, all of our guys the ball. We have a bunch of different guys that can do something with the ball in their hands. That I think about Dave yesterday, making some really big plays with the ball in his hands. So we'll continue to do that.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony. Back to Scott Petrick.
And I got a couple more like clock management kind of things for you. At the end of the first half, you got asked about it after the game and said you wanted to go back and look. Would you have called a timeout given that?
Yeah, given how it went, yes. We were slow to get into that second play. We had some miscommunication, which we shouldn't, but we had a miscommunication on that second play there. Didn't run it exactly how it was designed. Then we had to scramble and throw the ball away. So that just took too long to get lined up. And then we have to throw the ball away. It's taking up way too much time. So in hindsight, had I known that was the case, would have called timeout there right after that first play.
Is the reason you don't automatically is because you want to leave the run option open there? You know what I'm saying? Like you could have called it and had 30 seconds left and thrown it 5 times if you wanted. So why initially wait?
Yeah, it felt like we could get quickly into a call we liked on that second down and still have an opportunity to call our timeout and still have time. It just it really took too long. And again, that's on me. And then in that after the draw and the second last possession, did you think at all about going for it on fourth down? Knowing how the Chargers are moving offensively, I saw some win probability said you're better off going for it than punting. Yeah, I mean, I think hindsight always is going to cause me to look at those decisions and think about what I could do to come through for our team. And so I'll look at all those things.
Thanks. Thank you, Scott. Matt Fontana, go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin, Gillen averaged 44 yards yesterday, but he's dropped to 29th in the league for punting average. Are you getting out of Jamie Gillen what you need?
I mean, we'd obviously want to punt better. That's no surprise, and he needs to be better, and he knows that.
And then you went with Blake over Hudson at the left tackle. How did you feel like he did coming out of the game?
Yeah, I thought he did a fine job. He battled, had some good moments.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Tom Withers, go ahead.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Coach. I'm glad you don't go back through all my stories to dissect how they look in hindsight. As far as the injuries, I know you're waiting on some of the meds. Any long-term concerns on any of those guys?
I don't know that it'd be appropriate for me to say yet, Tom. I got to see what the MRI say.
Okay, and Matt mentioned a guy named Blake. How did Hudson do when he came in?
Yeah, some good moments. He tries extremely hard. There's definitely some things that he will clean up from an assignment perspective, from a technique perspective. But he's done a nice job in his moments out there.
Thank you, Tom. We'll go back to Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 here real quick. The first one is a follow-up on Odell, that 2nd and 9, but before the fateful 3rd and 9 that we've been talking about. That seemed like one, I think, where, if I recall correctly, it seemed like he was flashing open on a crossing route, I think. But anyways, is that one of the missed opportunities that you're talking about to Odell? And do you think that maybe Baker, after that drop, just kind of didn't really want to put the ball in his hands?
No, I don't think so. I think any receiver throughout the course of the season, you're going to have drops. It just happens. So we trust our guys. On that particular play, Mary Kay, he thought he had an opportunity to Rashard down the field, but it was just an unfortunate play.
Okay. And then the other thing real quick is when you have guys come out after the game like Baker did, very strongly and complain about the officiating, and Miles also doing that after a loss like this, I'm just wondering what are your thoughts on that? Are you fine with that, or do you have a problem with that?
No, you know, they understand that we're not going to rely on those guys. They can, you know, they can say what they want to say in those moments, and it's the emotion of the game certainly gets us, but we can't rely on the officials.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Marla Reinhardt.
Yeah, Kevin, just one quick thing about Chris Hubbard. I mean, he said on his Insta, kind of confirmed that he was going to go ahead with surgery. Just what kind of a loss is that? And I would assume you're looking for help at tackle.
Yeah, he's going to get surgery, Marla. You know, it's a big loss. He's a guy that played for us last season, played and gave us some good reps at tackle, at guard. You know how I feel about him as a person. So we're going to miss having him, you know, in the lineup, both as a player and, you know, just as he's rehabbing this, going to make sure he's as close to the team so we can make sure that his presence is around that particularly some of the young guys on the offensive line.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marla. Let's try to get two more quick ones in. Scott Patrick, Daryl Ryder. Scott.
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to follow up on Tom's injury thing. On some of the guys that have been out, like Greg Newsome and Jedrick, do you expect them back this week?
Yeah, I don't know yet, Scott. I think we'll, after today with their workouts, as we get to Wednesday, seeing them move around, I'll know better. It's hard for me to say today.
And your starting defensemen, Miles, is he okay after having to go out for a bit? And then Jadeveon, did you expect him to play and then just wasn't able to go after pregame?
Yeah, Miles, I think, you know, we'll see. Obviously, he's sore, but we'll see as the week goes on. Yeah, with Jadeveon, he had the elbow injury throughout the week, and then through pregame, his knee got sore, and that's really what held him out of the game.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Scott. We'll close with Daryl Ryder.
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted to ask about that fourth quarter defensively. I know you lost a lot of bodies. Guys were just coming in and out of there, but the Chargers got 26 points off you, and they had all the momentum offensively. Just from your perspective, how do you slow that train when it's rolling down the tracks the way it was yesterday from a momentum standpoint?
Yeah, I think you just got to find a way to make a play. I mean, we played, you know, there was individual efforts that they made great plays on, but bottom line, it comes down to getting a stop, something that I think we've done well the previous 2 weeks. We didn't do it yesterday, and that's where we got to look at it from all angles and again, just find a way. It's on these Sundays, we got to find a way to win, whatever it takes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Daryl. Coach, thanks for the time today.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You guys are hot.
All right, there's your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, at the podium. A lot of questions there. We have questions for Joe Thomas. He will join us next for the Joe Thomas Hour of Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. When you're dedicated to bring the best value to your customers, you got to do a little work. And Northeast Factory Direct, founded on the principle that quality shouldn't have to cost a ton, and they prove that every day by keeping the overhead low, buying by the truckload, and passing those savings on to you, the customer. During Northeast Factory Direct's garage sale, you can find queen pillow top mattresses starting at just $3.99, double-sided pillow tops for $6.99, and when you buy that queen prestige mattress for $6.99 or king prestige mattress for $7.99, you're going to get a bundle of free stuff, a set of sheets, 2 pillows, and a mattress protector. Check them out, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. Time now for the Joe Thomas hour of the program as we bring in the Hoff. This one had it all, buddy. Nathan and I, looked at this at about every single angle, but in the end you kind of come away with eventually if you're going to be a team that is of consequence in terms of talking about the Super Bowl, you've got to win one of these. And unfortunately, for the second time this season, we did not.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're right there, and it's great to be part of one of the most exciting games of the year, maybe the most exciting game so far, the back and forth, having the lead, feeling really good about a lot of different aspects of what you've done, but in the end, the Browns just have to find a way to close it out, right? You feel like the same thing happened week 1 against the Chiefs, and if you're going to want to go on a playoff run and be a championship team, you're not going to win every game in your 4-minute offense. Like, you're going to have to go and win some of these back and forth games that come down to the wire. And thus far in the last couple seasons, the Browns just haven't been that team that can close good, really good teams out, especially on the road.
Is it just as simple, though, as somebody just making a play? Is that what it comes down to? I mean, you can scheme it all up, but it's execution, right, in those moments. And sure, the Chargers got some benefits from the officials, but even with that, you have the ball 3:08 left and an offense that at this point, has been elite. At the end of the day, 8 yards of play, 500 yards of offense, 42 points, no turnovers. Is that what it comes down to? Somebody making their block, somebody making the guy miss, breaking a tackle, a receiver getting open, the quarterback putting the ball there. What does it take to do that?
Well, I think there's two buckets, right? There's like, how do you win? Okay, from a computer robot standpoint, yeah. I think it comes down to usually 2 or 3 plays. Who's going to make that play, whether it be on offense or defense, to make that play that seals it? A lot of times on defense you see it with a sack or an interception or a turnover. Offensively, it's completing that long pass typically down the field, either to get into field goal range or to complete it for a touchdown. Or, sometimes, unfortunately, it was the offensive line. Maybe you missed a block here or there and you gave up a sack, or there was a big penalty or a miss. I don't want to blame the officials, because I'm sure anybody that's been listening to any Browns sports talk in the last 6 hours has had plenty of blame the official stuff. But it's those big moments that once you've had that experience as a team, as a player, that you've done it previously, you feel the confidence to be able to go out and play your best in those moments, because that's what you need and that's what championship teams do. And I think for the Browns specifically, once it happens once, the floodgates are going to open, because there's so much talent on this team. You can see it. It's not like this is a team that's being held back by anything at all whatsoever, from a scheme standpoint, from a player standpoint. They have everything you need. Now it's just a matter of making that play in a big game, and then having the confidence that when those situations arise again, you're going to be at your best to be able to go and do it again and make it repeatable. That's what the great teams, the Patriots, the Colts when Peyton Manning was there, those championship teams, that's what they do. They learn the feeling of playing your best and being in the zone in those big moments.
Well, Joe, and I think that's what the Chargers got by beating Kansas City, right? They got belief. They bought belief with that win. And they got behind 2 scores to us, and it wasn't panic. It was keep going, and it was so ultra aggressive. The amount of times they 3-3 on 4th down. They're just, we're going for it, and then they get it time and time again, and you could feel it almost with them. And especially, it just was a waterfall of points in the 4th quarter where they just kept. It felt like you could have given them the ball back with 27 seconds, and they would have went and scored. That's just the way that it was. Some of that's our injuries. And that's something that and Coach didn't have much from the press conference in terms of MRIs. But by the time this thing was over, we were so ravaged by injury. And this is something that's going on across the league. can you read into anything into that, Joe, as a guy who played as many consecutive snaps as you did, why we're seeing the injury issues we're seeing? And certainly it affected us hugely on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to see statistically, league-wide, what are the injury numbers and how do they compare to years past? Because as I reflect back, it seems like every year it's like, oh, there's so many injuries this year. Because typically when they happen, it's in those big games, and then from a fan standpoint, you have this perception that, oh, there's a ton of injuries this year, because when they happen to you, it hurts so bad. And so it's hard for me to know for sure if it's sort of like our fans' perception because of how impactful those injuries were. I mean, we lost every corner basically that we had in the roster. That, and to play against one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, I'm not even going to say one of the best young quarterbacks, because Justin Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yep.
And you've got two maybe Hall of Fame receivers, at least Pro Bowl receivers, and an outstanding running back. Like, they have an incredible passing attack that you need to be at your best to feel like you have a 50-50 shot of slowing these guys down. And when you just get so injured in your secondary like that, it's a little bit like on the offensive line when you're running out of bodies and now you're putting guys out there that really, they don't deserve to be put in that position, but that's all you got left.
Yeah, I mean, at one point we were playing a game in the NFL where we had two people who could play cornerback on the period on the roster, and we had two people who could play tackle period on the roster at one point in the game, which was a pretty stunning thing. And yet guys stepped up, obviously came up a little bit short, and it's one that's going to, eat at the Browns for a while. But how about Blake Hanshoff didn't allow a single pressure and was basically dealing with Joey Bosa the entire game?
Yeah, I got to say, Blake Hance played very, very well. I thought he was unnoticed, which is exactly the greatest praise that any left tackle can ever get. But I think Kevin Stefanski deserves a lot of credit, too, for the way that he was calling the game. You noticed a lot of times, especially in those critical moments, we knew that Baker was going to be dropping back in the gun. He was going to be in the pocket. He needed to push the ball down the field. They were very creative in getting that help initially, because I think when I watch Blake's game, he's very technically sound. He's got good feet. The area he would struggle with is if you get a guy who's a really fast, powerful edge rusher, like if you went against Miles or Joey or Nick Bosa when they're not being chipped, where they can just peel off the ball at the snap, get ahead of him, and then turn it into speed to power where he feels like he's trying to catch up. A lot of times tackles get on their heels. But Kevin Stefanski smartly understood that, and so he was creative in bringing in receivers and tight ends and running backs, getting that initial chip just to slow him up enough to give Blake a chance to now use his best skill sets to be able to block him. And block him he did, and also getting that guy out on the route. I mean, like, the one thing I hate is when you leave a tight end in or a running back in to protect, because then you lose flat control in your route concepts, and the guy who was supposed to be maybe taking that flat where the running back was supposed to be, now he can drift into the intermediate route area, or you lose that check down. So Kevin did a great job calling that game, I think, to help the guys, especially on the offensive line, that were in a tough situation because of injury and because, frankly, the Chargers have a very good defensive line, and Joey Bosa is one of the best in the NFL.
Joe, I want to take you through a couple of key things and just get some thoughts. I'm going to throw a few things at you here, and you just tell me kind of what you're thinking on them. On the two busts in coverage where they get the big plays over the top against us, how are those things happen? How do you explain those things if you're Joe Woods?
I mean, obviously, those are route concepts that we know how to cover. We've covered them in the past, and it's just a matter of communication. And you got to give the offense a little bit of credit, though, because they're trying to scheme up formations and shifts to disguise and confuse and force communication errors in your secondary. And that's exactly what happened, and I think Coach Stefanski talked about it in his press conference. Anytime there's a guy that's Scott-ass free running through the secondary, it's either maybe your guy fell down or he tore his hamstring, or there was a communication error and somebody didn't understand, hey, the pass off, I'm supposed to pass it to this guy, now I need to drift deeper, and it's unfortunate, and it's one of those things that, in the first week or so of the season, you saw a little bit of it. The Browns cleaned it up. The communication had gotten much better, but now you have to raise your level when you're going against a team like the Chargers, because that's what they do for a living. Like, they specifically have a great offense that is designed to force communication in the secondary and make it hard on them and easy on you. And unfortunately, the two huge communication errors led to huge plays in the secondary. And Justin Herbert's a kind of quarterback that's not going to miss those opportunities. He's going to make them, and he's going to make you pay.
And then the next would be officiating, and your former teammate Mitchell Schwartz with some pretty strong comments on it. I can't read all of it, or I'd be thrown off the air. But I'll paraphrase: "Are you blanking kidding me? The state of refereeing is at an all-time low right now. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's so bad. It's bad across the entire league. We're talking about the pass interference calls, certainly that have infected us in 3 straight weeks. Quite frankly, 3 straight weeks in big moments that are just gifts." For the opposition. We see it. It feels like every play with Miles, with the holds. What do you make of the state of officiating in the league?
So Mitchell may be angling for a job, because I know that he does want to be an official. So we got to maybe take that with into consideration a little bit. But no, I think he's exactly correct. There's too much at stake, especially in the NFL game. You know, betting dollars, just fandom, just the popularity of the sport, what these guys and what these coaches put into this, what these fans put into this. I mean, this is our life as fans, as media people, to consistently have so many errors in officiating. Kevin said it in his presser you just heard, like, he's not going to call a perfect game all the time. There's going to be mistakes. We understand that, but it's the volume of the mistakes that is concerning to me. And what I can't possibly understand is how the NFL has not put a sky judge on every single game to be able to correct those errors. And I'm not talking about a sky judge where he's going to call down and say, oh, I just saw illegal contact over there on number 15, or, oh, I saw holding on 73. No, what I'm talking about is the ref throws a flag like they did in the Browns game, where it's a 130-yard pass interference Hail Mary, where clearly the offensive receiver pulled down the defensive player. It should have been offensive pass interference, and yet the referee, because of his angle, because it happened too quickly, whatever the problem is, they called it on the defense, which was incorrect. He needs to be able to call down and say, that should have been on the offense. Call it on the offense. Nobody even has to know. That's why it costs almost nothing to the NFL, which I understand they're price sensitive about a lot of stuff. This should not be one of those things. Just have an official that used to be an official being in the booth, watching the 7 or 12 different angles that you get in replay before the officials make a call while they're all huddled up, and give them a little help. Like the holding call on JC should have been defensive hands to the face, or nothing. Just pick up the flag. No fan, nobody at home, nobody watching the game's even going to know. It doesn't even slow down the pace of play.
Exactly. Just get it right.
Just get it right. And so I think pass interference, holdings, and then roughing the passer is a big one too. That gets missed a lot from they throw the flag and it's not the passer, and it becomes a huge play in the game because it's 15 yards, automatic first down.
Patriots like yesterday, Joe, with Mac Jones. Yeah. They got a free play.
Exactly. And I think what the NFL officials are telling us, without using their words, they're using their flags, is that this game is moving so fast. There's players all over the field. Never have we ever seen so many players so far spread out and so many different blades of grass on the field. There's so many spread offenses. There's so many guys going deep. There's just too many places, and the game has just become so fast for officials that are on the field to be able to consistently get right, especially with these modern rules, especially the pass interference, the holding, the roughing the passer, things that didn't exist 15 or 20 years ago. Now these officials are telling us, because they're consistently getting it wrong, that it's going too fast to not have the help of instant replay from an official that's watching in a booth.
You got to have it. You got to get these things right.
It's
too important, really, to not. And it affects, as you said, many things. And you know the
this
ripple
one cost
effects.
us a game. This one cost the pass interference cost you the game. You could have overcome it,
of course,
but this cost you.
And you should have, but you didn't. And so it stings. And that changes the game. Hoff, speaking of crazy fourth downs, do you recall a team down 27-13 in the beginning of the third quarter, going for it 4th and 2 on their own 24?
All I can say is you can tell the Chargers coaching staff has a ton of confidence in Justin Justin Herbert, and they're just saying, we just want to keep the ball in this guy's hands. You know, it almost reminds me of, I forget what that high school team, what their name was, that just always went for it on fourth down because
From
they had a
Arkansas.
good offense, and they felt, was that Arkansas?
There was an Arkansas high school team that did that. They didn't punt or kick.
We don't care what the score is. We don't care the situation. We feel that we're going to make way more of them, and the outcome is going to be tipped in our favor more often than not. So we're just going to stay on the field. And you know what? A lot of times you got an offense that's rolling. It's probably a good decision. I mean, it clearly was in this game, and it's kind of like 2-point conversions, and that's one of the things I love from Kevin is his propensity to go for two, especially in those situations where you get a penalty on the extra point. Hey, now we're at the 1 yard line. The more you do it, the better you become at that play. It's like a free throw, right? The more you sit at the free throw line and you shoot free throws, the better you're going to get. The more you go for it on 4th and 3, 4th and 4, 4th and 6, when it becomes a stressful moment that the defense maybe is not comfortable because they haven't been in those all that often. But now on offense, you're calm, you're cool, you're collected. You know the plays. There's maybe 15 plays. You can get to it from different formations and shifts and personnel groupings, but you got those plays, and the quarterback and the offense, they probably get so comfortable, they could just go out there and call their own plays because they know in those situations this week, hey, these are our 3 plays that are going to be, 4th and 3 to 6. These are the ones we're going to go for. And I think that's a great strategy to have, and I would love to see the Browns maybe go for it a little bit more on 4th down, although Kevin, it's not like he's Mr. Conservative.
Yeah.
We do go for it on 4th and down quite a bit.
Well, it's a totally different mentality, right, guys? Instead of viewing that you got to get 3.5 yards of play from that perspective, you can all of a sudden you got 4. It just changes everything, and the aggressive nature of it. It could border on reckless, but if you trust, and they clearly trust him to do
that, felt like I said at the beginning, Madden, where that's the rule. You're down 14 without the ball in the second half. It's a forced quit, and they're just like, look, we're either getting this or we're going home. Because if we stop them on their own 20,
it's over.
It's 30-13. It's over.
Yeah.
At a minimum, we scored 34. And then all of a sudden it's a boat racing.
Yep.
But they made every time there was one of those plays, and they converted 2 fourths on that. One of the busted coverages I was just looking up while we were talking, there was either a miscommunication with A.J. Green or Delpit. It looked like Green should have carried, that Delpit was in a robber, but I'm not, again, I have no idea. But between those two, and those are guys, again, who aren't on the field a lot together.
Right.
And so you get a miscommunication there, and that was on a 3rd and 10. It's those money plays that ultimately ended up being the difference. But man, 4th and 2 on your own 20. I remember when I was going, I was like, wait a second, what?
Yeah. No, you never see it.
I think it talks a little bit, too, about the amount of respect that the Chargers had for the Browns offense. It's like, remember Colts when it was Brady and Manning, Colts and Patriots, when Bill Belichick decided to go for it in I think it was either overtime or right at the end of the game, and he was backed up on his own 20. It was 4th and 3, and he was just like, go for it, because if we don't make this and we give the ball to Peyton, they're going to score anyway. So whether they score in 2 minutes or in 30 seconds, it doesn't matter. We need to keep the ball in our hands. And so I think there was some of that going on because of how efficient the Browns' offense was. But I think one of the big advantages of being a team that does go for it a lot on 4th down is if you're going to go for it on 4th down and the opponent doesn't. So let's say it's 3rd and 8. They're going to be defending the sticks. You may have an opportunity to throw an easy pass at 6 yards and get tackled, and now you got a 4th and 1, versus feeling like, okay, it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, we got to get all of it on this down. You can find the softness in the coverage a lot of times, or the softness in the defense with maybe some more creative runs or a draw or a screen, where you don't feel like you have to get all 8, and you can use a little bit of that unpredictability because you know what you're going to do for the next 2 downs, and the defense doesn't.
All right, guys, let's play a little word association. I'll give you the player, the position group. You give me some thoughts. Let's start with our quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Let's start with the Hoff.
Man, such a great start for him. And I think what I would say is lost opportunity, because he really had an opportunity down the stretch at the end of that game to make this kind of like his signature marquee. Hey, I brought my team back. I was clutch and played one of the best games of my life in the biggest game in the NFL, the most exciting, one of the biggest games the NFL has seen this season. And not that he played bad down the stretch, but he just had that opportunity to really, I think, boost himself into the conversation as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I feel bad for him and the team that they weren't able to do that.
I thought he played a very good, very efficient game. I mean, when you're 23 of 32, that's 72%, 305 yards, 9.5 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. I thought he was great. He took what was there. He hit passes, basically worked the whole field. Now, this is back-to-back weeks, though. The last 2 weeks, in week 1, he was 0 of 6 on passes of more than 20, or 2 weeks ago was 0 of 6 on passes of more than 20 yards. This week, 0 of 5. So we've got to get some of that vertical. Now, again, one was a Hail Mary at the end.
Yeah.
There were some that were not within the flow, but you're talking about from 10 to 19 yards, 5 of 5 for $164 and a touchdown. Elite. So I thought he played very, very well, and I think that a lot of the criticism that he is getting today is unjust. He played a great game.
Question.
This ain't on him.
It's not on him at all. 1. 2, and it's part of the position that he plays. And The Rock said it when he was setting up his famous trilogy with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course, he lost the first 2 matches in that trilogy. He would win the third. But he said in Hollywood they teach you. It's not Act 1 and Act 2 that's important. It's Act 3. It's the finish.
Yep.
And I think that if Baker had been 60% completions, 1 touchdown, 200 yards, but then on that last drive hits 2 throws and ices the game, everybody's talking about what a great game he had. And they're not looking at the 60 minutes. They're looking right there. And, frankly, he had 1 pass attempt really on the drive to get the first down. They should have called a penalty on the guy who pushed Donovan Peoples-Jones out of bounds 9 yards down the field on the out and up that got him. One of his other incompletions was a drop by Odell on a 4th down. Maybe we don't even need, to get to this point. But I think the criticism he's getting right here is unjust. He went toe-to-toe with Herbert. We put up 42 points, 500 yards of offense, 8 yards of play. He was incredibly efficient and didn't turn the football over.
And no one had ever lost
doing that.
When you do that.
Well, it's great that we can invent ways to do it.
We certainly did.
By the way, our line, he was only under pressure on 14% of his dropbacks. You think about this is Conklin for 2/3 of the game.
Yeah, no Jed.
No Jed. Incredible performance. And as Hoff said, play designed to protect. And it worked because from a clean pocket, 22 of 29, 283, 2 touchdowns. Quarterback rating in this one of 130 for Baker Mayfield.
I want to just piggyback real quick on one thing. I know one of the criticisms nationally about Baker was like, he's played well in moments when they have the lead and they have the running game, and he's more of a play-action quarterback. He can't throw from the pocket, but they ran 0 play-action passes in that second half when they were scoring all those points. So he really made a ton of progress throwing from in the pocket, hitting receivers. So he absolutely played a good game. There's no doubt. He eliminated all turnovers, but it was like you said, it was those 1 or 2 plays down the stretch that if he would have made it, the entire narrative of everything that happened out there today would have changed.
Yep.
And this unjust criticism that he's getting right now wouldn't be out there. But that's the nature of the game, right? We talked about those 2 or 3 plays at the beginning of this conversation that determine the outcome a lot of times. And unfortunately, if you don't make those, that's all that people remember.
Gambling without setting limits on how much you're going to wager or how long you'll play is like a football team going into a game without a game plan. It's probably going to end up in a loss, so always set limits before you bet. Get more tips like this one at keepitfunohio.com. All right, quick hitter, each of you on these. I'll give you a name. You give me a quick thought on it. Let's go with Nick Chubb in the Hoff.
My God, that guy is continuing to amaze me when he touches the football. 7.7 yards per carry. I'm not a stat guy, but I don't know if I ever had a running back in my career that averaged that, much less the way he seems to do it almost every single week. He's got the explosion for a big guy to be able to hit a home run. That's just remarkable. I mean, he went for 161 yards against a pretty good Chargers defense. He is incredible. Just when everyone was singing Kareem Hunt's praises, not that Nick wasn't playing well, but we were just so amazed with what Kareem was doing for this offense. Nick goes, no, don't forget about me. I'm still a pretty good running back, and has an incredible outing.
David Njoku, Z.
Back in the day, I remember you saying he was your breakout guy for this season. And
Thank you.
Because of his athletic ability and what he can do. 7 catches, 149 yards, both career highs, the touchdown, his athleticism on full display. And I think what we're seeing from the Chief is that he's matured. He's gotten his head in the right place. His athletic gifts are there. His hands, remember people used to talk about his hands? He's catching everything.
Yep.
I think that he's ascending to the point where if he starts being a guy that's on the field 80, 90% of snaps, that I think the Chief has a chance to be a star.
Seems like that. Yeah, he's got certain things you just can't coach. All right, let's get both of you guys on Justin Herbert. You saw him. We'll get to you in a second. Z, you saw him in person. Joe, what'd you make on TV?
It's just amazing the command he has of this offense. The decision making blows me away. The way he stands back there and delivers the football exactly where it needs to go. The way he directs the safeties with his eyes, and he understands exactly, all right, this is their coverage, and he knows it right as soon as the ball is snapped. This is where I know I need to go with the football, so I'm going to look this guy off, and then I'm going to deliver an absolute dart on the other end of the field. It's reminiscent of watching a guy like Peyton Manning in year 10, 11, 12, where it's almost like everything is in slow motion for him. He's really a joy to watch when he's not playing against the Browns.
Yeah.
He is, and this is, I'm sure people are going to push back, and I'll have to go back through my 9 years, and I know I've seen Brady, and yes, he's great, and I've seen Pat Mahomes. And he's the most impressive guy that I've seen in person, and this is the reason why. He's as big as Cam Newton.
Is he really like that physically?
He stands out on the field. Like, you're like, this guy's a big guy. He's 6'6", 2 something. I mean, he's big.
Yeah.
Like, he's a big dude. He reminded me, and Gibbe will remember this, when Carson Palmer, you'll remember this, Hoff, when Carson Palmer came here with the Cardinals at the First Energy, low those many years ago, it was probably like 15, 16 maybe it was 15. And he just put on like a surgical clinic against us. And I remember just watching his poise in the pocket, the way he stands, the way he just goes through the calm.
Mm-hmm.
He has it. So he's got size. And even when he took off on that touchdown run, you could see that if he wanted to be an effective runner, he could do that anytime he wants to. Doesn't need to. The poise, the calm, all of his movements are smooth. Nothing looks frenetic. Nothing looks panicked. It doesn't matter the situation. He can throw the ball hard. Everything he throws, I said, in the air, it just looked right. It was the right speed for that throw. He throws with touch. He can throw to all levels of the field. Those bombs look effortless.
Yeah.
Like the second one, he rolled right and threw that back left because we had busted the coverage. I think John Johnson thought the guy was going to the right and missed him for a second as he broke his route to the left, Mike Williams. He's more impressive than Mahomes because Mahomes, he does it, and you could say, I see, Montana, I see Brady in terms of the conventionalness of what he does.
Yeah.
And then it's just otherworldly. I'm telling you, that dude is, I said this earlier on the show off, they wouldn't trade him, and I know this because I talked to some of the people down there, and you got the sense in the bill, like, they wouldn't trade him for anybody in the league right now. Nobody. Like, if the Chiefs called right now and said, we'll give you Mahomes, they'd be like, no.
It's just crazy to even consider it. Like, people talked about Patrick Mahomes the last couple of years, like he was the greatest football player that ever existed, right? Like, kind of like the way people had talked about Aaron Rodgers for a long time. And now to even put Justin Herbert up there. And then after last night's performance, Josh Allen?
Yeah.
How about the future of the NFL with these exciting young stars at quarterback is remarkable. But
could they all get out of the AFC?
Right.
God, yeah, no kidding. Can we get some of these guys into the NFC, please? This is just ridiculous.
bit,
Or
yeah.
what we need is these guys to hit their second contract, so they have to pay them $100 million a year, and they can't afford any other good players.
That's where we are with
I'm
Mahomes.
tired of seeing these
Mahomes
young
is ridiculous.
studs
That's where we are.
thrown
with Mahomes.
to all-pro receivers. That's just not fair. Like, we need more of this Tom Brady, like, hey, I'm still amazing, but I literally don't even have a practice squad guy out there starting at receiver that can get open. Like, that's a little bit more fair for the rest of the NFL. But I went to the Rose Bowl game where it was Wisconsin-Oregon, and I watched Justin Herbert, and I was pretty impressed with him. I'm not going to say I'm like a quarterback guru because I'm certainly not, and I didn't see it back then. But I remember talking to some friends in the NFL about him, and they were like, I don't know if he's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, if you remember when they came out, people thought it was a little bit of a stretch for the Chargers to draft him where they did. And to think that this is what gets me about the NFL draft. Tua Tagovailoa. People were talking about tanking for that dude for like 2 years. And then when he falls to Miami, like, it was the greatest coup of all time. And then, oh, by the way, right behind him is this guy, Justin Herbert, that's going to get drafted that nobody's really talked one word about. And it turns out, oh, he might be one of the best quarterbacks the NFL's ever seen.
It's crazy. Huff, you're the best, buddy. We know you got to run. Appreciate your time.
Guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully they're under better circumstances next Monday.
Yes.
We hope so, too, certainly. If your Social Security benefits have been denied, call the disability lawyers at 1-800-ELK Ohio. Elk & Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Beau Bishop here for Raising Cane's. Stop by Raising Cane's this Halloween season. Enjoy hands-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers with the Peanuts gang. Visit RaisingCanes.com to purchase a limited edition Peanuts t-shirt. Net proceeds will be donated to Canine Companions and its mission to provide trained assistant dogs to people with disabilities. Are you looking for a place to have fun while working hard? Raising Cane's is hiring. Visit workatcanes.com or text RC Jobs to 97211. Raising Cane's, one love. We're back tomorrow. Next Level up next. Cleveland Browns Daily.
Score. Quick.
Baltimore.
Colts. Ravens. Go.
Colts.
850 ESPN Cleveland.